Scalpel. Thank you. Hope I get this right. I haven't slept in days. Oh no! Oh no!
I heard you can throw the football really well, Commish.
I can throw the football just as well as I like my rubs. Watch this. What? Objection, Your Honor. He's badgering the witness.
Sustained.
All right, so just finish off this next line of billion lines of code, and I'll have those guys betting all their money. There's no way they're gonna win at fantasy anymore. All this, betting. Anyways, I'm gonna call my bro. I gotta see what's happening. Hello? Hey bro, what's poppin'? Dak still making you wet dream? Baby, it's all good, bro. Oh, I got mustard on my favorite shirt. You know what, bro? I don't even know who to set up all this week in my lineup. Well, if you go this linebacker from Washington, they're paying a run-first offense, so that linebacker is guaranteed to get a bunch of volume, and that's how you will win this one. You the best, man. How the hell do you know all this? You see any women around, bro? Good point, my brother. Good point. You know what? Thanks for all you did for this. There's no way I could ever win without you. I know this. Hey everyone, guess who's back? It's Commish back here with another draft preview, and this time we got Susie and Fighting Geese, original owner, most career regular season wins with 94 and 6 away from 100. So we'll have to see if you're able to get that 100th win this year. I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge for you this year. Obviously, last year it appears that you went all in to try to do well, and now you're going to suffer the consequences. And I don't even think you did that well last year. I don't even know where you finished. But I just want to say thanks for being a part of the league, babe. Really appreciate it. It's nice to be able to have a woman to enjoy football with. So I just want to say that is a good benefit. So anyways, I'm going to share my screen. And we'll get right into the preview here for Susie. Fighting Geese. All right, so looking at your current keepers, this is where things get interesting, right? Because I think you've obviously done a decent job of trying to get some draft picks back, but you might want to continue to try to work on that. I know it's tough because, teams are starting to solidify their keepers. But even when we look at teams that have already been previewed, the Mother Tuckers of the world and teams like that could probably use another keeper. So, there's always potential there to try to get some picks back. Your keeper's running back Tony Pollard. This one's interesting, right? Because, Pollard came from Dallas and really did actually have a pretty decent year for you last year with Tennessee. And, obviously your hope is to have that bell cow. The problem with your keepers right now, I would say, is just the simple fact that, when we get into your pick situation, the fact that you don't have many running backs, you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a tight end as a keeper, which are usually premium positions, it could create some problems for you down the road. You do have other options, right? Like, so Rico Dowdle was one of your guys. Again, not sure how much of a role he's going to have in Carolina, but another guy you should probably consider keeping, I would think, would be Zach Charbonnet in the running back hole. The new coach there in Seattle, based on what I read, is going to run the ball a lot. I could see why with Darnold as quarterback, right? So that might be something you might want to consider, especially considering Kenneth Walker's injury history. You right now you're currently going four-headed monster at wide receiver. Again, because of your pick scenario, you might want to cut one of these guys and keep someone like Charbonnet or maybe one of the tight ends you got. You got David Njoku, Kate Auden as well, and tight ends tend to be a premier position. The other option is you go quarterback, right? But it looks like your quarterback last year was Jared Goff. So, I mean, you're in a situation where, with your first pick, you might have to go quarterback, right? So does it make sense to keep the quarterback or does it make sense to just pick it first? Looking at your wide receivers, I think you have three really great young wide receivers. You got Marvin Harrison and Keon Coleman entering year two. So when you think about longevity of keepers, if these guys can become, good players on their teams, and they should, right? Like Marvin Harrison was one of the highest touted prospects last year. It actually was Brock Bowers, who I think actually turned out to be the best pick, right? But Marvin Harrison should improve this year, I feel, and Keon Coleman as well, right? And Keon Coleman also has one of the best quarterbacks in the league with Josh Allen throwing the ball, and then you got Zay Flowers with Lamar throwing the ball. So you got some great quarterbacks throwing the ball to these guys, and I think it is going to definitely help your performance this year having those three guys. And those three guys are going to have big years because, I do feel it is a bit of a survival year for you this year. Right now, you're opting to keep Stephon Diggs. I personally would probably keep a running back or a quarterback over the fourth wide receiver. The other issue with Stephon Diggs this year is just also the pink substance issue. Probably just a bunch of clickbait, right, to keep us interested during the off season, but it's still a bit of a concern, right? So, that would be my advice for you. But of course, this is your team. You do what you want. And then IDP, you do have Mr. Reliable TJ Edwards, and you got a slew of IDPs available still that I just noticed the last couple of previews here. I think it was Kalen, Adrian, and Chris. I mentioned in their preview they all could upgrade at IDP, and you could be a place where they could go for a source of upgrading. To be honest, if anyone else is watching this preview or those three teams, you might want to reach out to Susie. I know she's not that active, but if you just post something on the public chat, I'm sure she'll respond. But you got Terrell Bernard there as a potential keeper for somebody. He's a good linebacker. Kenneth Murray, who I think will be the main tackler for Dallas this year and was great last year for Tennessee. So those are a couple of linebackers that guys could probably get for pretty cheap from your team, considering your pick situation. So if those other owners are watching this preview, sometimes it's good to watch other teams' previews, right? Because there's lots to pull from there. And I know Susie isn't really all that proactive in the offseason to get things done. So those are for the other teams to be proactive. Looking at the pick situation for you, and this is where I say it's a bit of a survival year. So out of the teams we've previewed so far, I would say you're right there with Kalen as one of the worst scenarios. But the thing is, Kalen has his first 5 round picks. You only have two in the first 5 rounds, but you do have 7 picks in the first 10, whereas Kalen only has 5. So right now, just comparing situations, you don't have the round one, no round four, no round five. Your first pick is 26, and the next pick 55. I think honestly, you're going to have to solidify a quarterback in one of those first 2 picks, which really limits the amount of depth you're going to get on the other side of things. which is also part of the reason why I think you should keep Zach Charbonnet over Stephon Diggs. But that's my advice. Looking at picks round 11 to 20, so you do have 10 and 10 here, right? But you only had seven in the first 10. So it definitely means that the last nine rounds you're going to be backloaded. And again, you tried to win last year, it just didn't work out. And now you're going to suffer the consequences like I did last year, where I basically could have dropped. If you finish last, you are dropping. You don't have, I guess you could say, the advantage that I do of winning tier two and moving right back up. So, anyways, so it'll be interesting to see how you proceed here. But you do have, the two extra or the extra 18, 19. And then there it is. If we look at the last nine rounds here, yeah, you got six picks in the last three rounds. Obviously, not an ideal situation that anyone wants to be in. You might be able to offload some of those, at least one or two round 29s by upgrading people's IDPs. Who knows, right? There's still a lot of time left in the off season here, just over a month. But yeah, I would say you definitely have to still continue to try to work on improving your picks situation just to make sure you do survive this year. The other, I guess you could say, detriment to you is you are in a very tough division. So Brian and myself have a lot of picks this year, just like you did last year. And Adrian, I think as well looks like a pretty decent team in his last year as well. So, and you can never discount Stan as well. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting year for you because of all those games you have to play against your division opponents. Of course, you do pick 26th. Based on your current keepers right now, I think you got to go for one of the premium positions, which would be QB, running back, or tight end. The issue is when I look at the projected pick around that range, it's like wide receivers, right? So Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins, Khalil Shakur might still be available there. It'd be pretty cool to add another young wide receiver, but I mean, do you want to keep five wide receivers every year? That's the issue. The tight ends that might be available in that range, I saw Tucker Kraft, I saw Johnny Smith, I saw David Njoku, who's currently on your roster. So those are guys that you could probably look at. In terms of the quarterbacks, I'd have to dig deeper into seeing what teams need quarterbacks. But there are still a lot of decent quarterbacks available. Dak, Baker, Jared Goff, who was on your team. Again, you're not going to get a top five quarterback because whoever has a top five quarterback is keeping them. But I still think you could nab a decent quarterback, maybe a pick 26. If you wait till round three, it might be too late and you're getting the bottom of the barrel, but who knows? It all really just depends on how the draft goes through. I think one benefit is you have at least pick 26 is a little bit earlier on in the second round. So, you're not going to be waiting forever to make that first pick. And then storylines for you this year. Odd to tell the most career wins ever in the league that you're in a survival year, but this is typically how this league works, right? You have a good year, maybe you try to go all in. Next year is going to be a bit of a challenge, right? And I think those challenging survival years are getting more and more difficult as the owners have improved in this league. I don't think you can go all in anymore. I think the risk is too much, right? And I think you just have to tactically go all in. And maybe that's two or three of your first 10 rounds, but don't, make it so that you're desperate to just offload people for nothing in the off season. And that's been a pattern for a lot of these teams that have gone all in. If you think about the last 12 years, next storyline for you, of course, I've already touched on it a little bit. I think you have to find ways to build your draft capital, maybe finding a way to get another pick in the first 10 rounds. I feel much more comfortable about your team in terms of potentially surviving. Again, the tough part you have is exactly what I had last year. I personally feel we're in the toughest division. We're all pretty much. Well, three of us are original owners, right? And then two have been around for, I think, 5, 6 years just in tier one. And some of those teams, Adrian and Stan, had to make their way up from tier three. So they've been in this format longer than the 5, 6 years they've been in tier one. They are good owners as well. And that's what happened to me last year is with the weaker roster playing all these good teams like you guys. those are losses, right? When you're the weakest team. So it's just, I think you do have to find a way to get the draft capital. And again, I've already touched on this a little bit too, is all in the way now, right? And I think ultimately, I think you have to try to get better at the deadline and stuff like that, especially if you're a contender, right? Because it becomes a bit of an arms race near the end. And let's face it, if you're a contender and this is your chance, there's 20 teams now, right? Like, I think you're going to find that, there's going to be different teams near the top year over year. I do. There's teams like Lucas that has four top three finishes, but again, that's 12 years, right? And that's four top three finishes, which is a third of the time he's in the top three. That's impressive, right? But I think those stats are going to dwindle just as the ownership has got way better over the years. And, I think it will take some adjustments for original owners like us ourselves to really think about how we want to proceed and manage our teams moving forward. So, anyway, Susie, again, I just want to say I'm grateful that I have a wife that gets to enjoy football with me, and I don't think a lot of men get that sometimes, right? So, anyways, I want to just say I hope you do survive, and hopefully some of those other owners are watching this preview, and you get some trade offers here. Have a good year, Suze. Bye for now.